I would challenge anybody to go find a department in Kansas of this population that has any more trained or better equipment than the Burlingame Fire Department.
Top notch.
Yeah, they've got the top-notch equipment, they got top-notch training, and they got top-notch people. There might be people equal to them, but I don't think there's any small towns that can beat them.
I don't know the date that I joined, but I've been in the department for 10 years. Keith is the one that got me involved in it. I hadn't really thought about it before, but got involved with a great bunch of guys and enjoyed doing it.
I say it was early 70s when I got on. I worked for the city here, and they needed a guy to drive a fire truck, so I drove it out for the fire department, and they never let me leave.
I was on the Burlingame Fire Department for I think 7 years, if I remember right. I probably joined, I don't remember the exact date, but it was probably in 87, 88.
I joined the fire department in about 1980, just right out of high school basically, and I just a little short of 20 years when I retired from the fire department.
I have been a member of the fire department for a total of 35 years. I initially started out on the first responders back in '83. I was one of the first high schoolers on the first responders part. I liked helping the community. I've always been community involved, so something I felt like I could do.
I've been on the fire department for, I would say, I think 26 years. When my husband was on, I was already in nursing, working in nursing, so I already liked the EMT part of it. Then when I seen him doing like the fire calls and the grass calls, I thought that was something that was really interesting to help with, and that's kind of how I ended up joining.
Started in the fire department in 1999. I started as a career firefighter with Walker Rizza Township Fire Department, then got on with Lawrence. Did that for 21 years, and in that I worked for Osage County EMS for 5 years.
Been on the department since 2010, in July I think it was. I come from a little bit of a fire background. My brother-in-law was on Carbondale Fire Department. He joined, so I joined over here.
I'm not, what year? Boy, we should have studied for this. Do you have any idea?
I don't know.
Doggone it. Maybe we shouldn't have started recording. Don't want to be wrong here.
Maybe it was in the mid-90s.
Okay, so we'll just say mid-90s. Probably on there for 10 or 11 years.
You were on there for 13.
13
years.
13 years. Started in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I started the fire department probably early 2000s, and maybe 6 years I was on there. Photography was kind of one of my side hobbies, and I loved taking pictures. And so I had talked to Jim about if I could join and take pictures and just kind of document some of the history and some of the things that were taking place and going on. And so that's what I did. I joined to get in the fire and take pictures with everybody.
I don't know just exactly the year, but it would have been just pre-City Hall fire, which would have been 90, 91, something like that. And I was on for 33 years.
There's no normal day with the fire department, especially a volunteer fire department.
And as far as the day in the life, a lot of it's just maintenance and training, and then it kind of comes in spurts for one thing. Especially on a volunteer fire department, you might not have anything for a month, really, and then you might have a heart attack, a wreck, and a house fire all in one day.
All within 2 hours time or less.
As a volunteer, you're usually at your normal job or at home for the weekend, and back then we wore pagers, and the pager goes off, you hurry to the fire station and...
Well, you had your pagers when they went off.
Doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're eating supper, taking a shower, you drop whatever you're doing. Birthday party, whatever. It's like, gotta go.
Yeah, I mean, you could be starting out like thinking it was just gonna be like Thanksgiving and end up not being that way because you end up getting a call.
Basically, tones go off at any point in time, and those that can respond, and those that don't are lucky sometimes.
If you were around the area, you went down the station, you got your gear.
If you're the first one there, you grab the first truck and wait for one person to go with you.
In the brush trucks, if 2 people to operate it, 1 to drive, 1 to run it. If you were the first one there, you waited for the second person. As soon as the second person got there, you took off. Usually you at least get 2, but 3 or 4, if somebody's pulling in, you wouldn't drive out. But
Well, when I started, there might be 5, 6, sometimes 10.
And then if people stand by at the station or drive their own vehicle, put something right here in town.
Asking everybody to remember the address.
Yeah.
Give you an address, most people didn't know where it was going. I said, we got a Smiling fire at Danny Smiley. He said, oh yeah, you just go out here south of town. That's knew people by their name and where they lived or something like that. If you'd told me your house address, I wouldn't have had any idea where you was at.
Tell them a name and he'd take you right to it, so.
And then if you were the first vehicle out, first ones to respond, then you could come back with a radio and say, it's make sure a lot of people come, or you never say we take care of it, because as soon as you say that, something would happen and it would get out of control. So
Got out to the fire, and usually somebody was around to, like Tom or Keith or somebody that would give you your game plan, and you had your job, whether you run the pumper or on the end of the hose, or you had a Scott Air Pack and went in search and rescue.
And then you come back and wash the truck.
Kind of talk about what we could have done different, if there's something we could have done different.
Yeah.
Put the truck back into service.
Yeah, we'd make sure that everything was ready to go for another trip. We'd make sure the hoses, if it was wet hose or something like that, we'd swap the hose out. Part of the biggest deal is make sure you had gas that's full of water and the hoses were ready to go.
Just like a good structure fire, you might spend
Yeah.
4 or 5 hours cleaning up. And then that's your time too. I might leave my job to go fight the fire, but then to have to miss the rest of the day, maybe to put the truck back in service.
Yeah, it's crazy because, sometimes a call will take us, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever hour. And then 3 hours later, we're leaving the firehouse and it's 4 o'clock in the morning and you're like, oh, we were up all night. We were up all night, just bullshit, and then it's like, it's time to go to work.
It's like our second family. I mean,
Yeah.
we see how everybody's doing,
I think that's what a lot of people don't understand about volunteer fire departments, that your job isn't over when the last fire is out. You still got to come back to the station and clean up all the equipment, get everything ready for the next call.
Most every firefighter I've met is like, I'm gonna do it so you don't have to. It doesn't matter if it's washing the truck, scrubbing toilets, or running bad calls. I'm gonna do it so the guy next to me doesn't have to. When you got a whole department of people doing that same thing, a lot of shit gets done.
Now, grass fire season can keep you busy.
this time of year, it was, which were in March, it was grass fires.
Yes.
I didn't know where Valencia Road was till we joined the fire department.
The fire.
There were always fires out there, and they're always in March, and I'm a big basketball fan, and we enjoyed, I don't know how many times I had 10 or 15 people at my house, and we were grilling boogers for watching basketball, and my alarm go off. I said, somebody's taking over.
You never know until you get out there as to how big it is, what, the wind does shift on those deals, and you may be out there half an hour, or you may be out there 12 hours.
We'll see a lot of the country fires that you come back in town, stuff like that, but it may blow back up again during the middle of the night or something.
You get it, hopefully get it knocked down, then you'd have people stay there all night, try to hit the hot spots and looking for flare-ups. You always get behind it. You never want to be in front of it. But sometimes you'd be fighting it back here, you look up and it's another fire half mile ahead of you.
You always try to hose it down real well, but you never know. We have had K-State come down, they had a van and teach how to fight grass fires. They had a bunch of guys back there, got a fire over here at such and such road going so fast. No matter what your solution was, the wind just picked up 60 mile an hour from the north instead of going to the south. What do you do now? And you wasn't not going to win with it, but you learned how to get out of the way or move around there, which helped a lot on grass fires.
A lot of grass fires, that was the main thing we ran, but the structure fires, them are the ones that stick in mind.
We had a lot of fires early on in my career. I was on for 6-7 years, and God, there was at least 7 or 8 house fires that I was on.
Had one out at Anderson's.
Yeah,
Out on the highway.
out on the highway.
They had lumberyard fire. There was an implement dealership. So you got, they've had some big fires.
Went out in that log cabin out in Astoria. Oh, God, that
Noonan,
was
Charlie
cold.
Noonan's place.
I'll tell you, the ice probably was built up over a half-inch thick on my coat and pants and fire outfit, we wore. We had to try to, circulate the water and try to keep it, and it was freezing up in the pump and the whole bit, and it was a mess. It's the most miserable fire I've ever been to. It was, I think, about 20 below zero.
I wasn't there on that fire, but they had one just south there, and it was almost the same conditions, not quite as cold. It was a bar, dance hall and stuff, caught fire and burned down, and it was cold, snowy, and people was having trouble getting to the fire, and they lost that one, but they didn't have a fire hydrant within a mile of the place.
You were there that day, went up there, that was what, Billy Roberts' house was on fire on the top of the hill where Dan Hovestad built that new house. Started in the kitchen, and John Schaefer and I we crawled in there and hit it pretty good with that hose. And I remember the flames went over the top, so it was pretty good. Felt like we made a good stop on it. It just, it already pretty well totaled. It was hot too.
The house almost to Auburn that we was helping on, I think it was Tim Love and I needed to quit going with Tim because it was bad luck, but we got on the roof. We were going to vent it on the roof. We laid our axe down. We needed something else, so we went back, turned around to go back to get the axe to chop a hole, and the axe fell through the roof. Probably the closest maybe we came to getting maybe injured was there was a house fire in South Park, and it was going pretty good, but it wasn't bad. Me and Tim was on the hose again, so we got our air packs on and going in, and we get maybe 6 feet in the door, and the pumper quit for some reason. So we're in there spraying and steaming that, things looking good. Of course, the pump on the truck quit, so we had to back out. And I really don't think it was more than 10 seconds after we backed out, the house collapsed on itself.
Jim first started on the fire department, had a fire at this house, and I went in, Jim was going to go with me. So I'm leading, going through the deal, and we had a hose, and we was going, and the floor collapsed. And I come in, I'm starting to go down, I'm stopping. Well, Jim can't see anything, it's dark, smoky, and he got his helmet up in my backside, trying to holler at him in a mask and tell him to stop because I don't want to go in the basement.
That was Richard's house.
Yeah, his brother-in-law's house.
The house explosion. Kind of check that thing off the bingo card.
Yeah, it was a gas explosion. We get out there and it's kind of a long driveway, the house is kind of tucked back in the woods. The only thing that was left was it was a walkout basement. It was just the basement. Everything else was gone. There was nothing left.
Well, the scariest one I was on that my boy here delivered gas. A gas truck, 1,500 gallons of gas. He was up about 7-8 miles north of Burlingame, and we got a fire call. Had a fire up there. Went up there and looked, and the whole truck tanker part was on fire. Like a dummy. I don't know why I did it, but I climbed up on top and was hosing the top of the tank off. You could hear the gas bubbling because it was boiling. And there was guys on the ground fighting, and we got it out and never lost a truck. And I thought afterwards, I said, that wasn't real smart on my part, because if it had blown, I'd still be waiting to come down.
My most memorable fire that I thought was the most challenging was a house down here by the post office that burned. We could not find the fire until it came through the basement floor. It was so dark in there, and the basement door was in the back corner of a kitchen in a little cubby hole. And you can't see 6 inches in front of your face and smoke like that. You're in somebody else's house, you don't know the layout, the floor plans. That's kind of just stressful. You want to find it and get it put out.
One other was Tony Corson's house. I think Lou Short and I went in, and it was flaming pretty good. We went in there and we fogged it, the living room, and went into the utility room where we think it started and fogged it. The steam just put the fire out.
The steam's what puts the fire out. And then once that steam comes over, you really can't see anything.
I think I remember Jim saying that the fire marshal came up and looked at it and said, I've never seen a volunteer fire department that didn't just drown everything. And it just happened to be perfect. The heat was good, it fogged it, and we went in, put it out, and just minutes more, and it would have been fully involved.
Usually you want to go in on the unburnt side and work to where it's burning through the structure. And so you go in there, and you're crawling, and you really can't see much of anything. But you'll see a glow back there, and that's Firefighting's pretty easy. You just put the wet stuff on the red stuff.
You know, you go in there in the dark, you can't see, or you're moving around, whatever, and to me, everything kind of slows down and you just feel comfortable, and which is, it's kind of crazy.
Somewhat calming.
Yeah, it is calming.
To me, it was fun. And I've had girlfriends and wives get upset with me because I would just drop whatever I was doing and go to a fire if it's all possible.
You know, when you can't see anything, everything else comes alive. You know, your touch, your feel, your sound, and all that stuff is all that stuff you focus on outside of being able to see, you know. And like I said, you focus on the job, you focus on the guys with you. You're in there eating the same smoke or whatever, and it's really hard to explain unless you're in there doing it.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of adrenaline to it, but I don't know. You just kind of train for it. I just never was smart enough to really think about all the bad things that could happen. I mean,
I was on the one, we were both on the one downtown for the Den.
The Den and Phase.
And
ceramic
Phase,
shop.
yeah. Because we fight fires too.
The Den fire. That was my first downtown fire.
Okay. I basically slept through the den fire, which I don't know how I did that. I didn't hear the radio or nothing.
Yeah, the downtown, when the Den burned last year. And I was out back working with Old Chief for the majority of the time. I mean, I can go into it if they need it necessarily, but I'm better off doing paperwork and that type of thing and that type of stuff because I can catch everything. So they just know to walk over to me and hand me their tags. And they don't go anywhere near the fire until they hand me their tag. You were out front.
Yep, I was out front collecting tags from Carbondale.
It's for accountability.
Yeah,
that way
you get their tags to make sure you know
you
who
know
goes
who's
in
in the
there.
fire and who's not in the fire and that type of thing.
City Hall was probably the biggest fire that I was ever involved with.
I mean, this was like, after midnight when the call came in, and whenever it said City Hall, I think everybody hit the floor.
About midnight or something, we got called out.
Yeah, it was very late. It was like 3 or 4 stations.
Yeah, I think Osage City came in, Carbondale came in, Burlingame was here.
Primarily, I was doing medical, but I also got on to hanging up the exhaust fan and a few other things.
I got there, I was one of the first ones on the scene and in the inside for a little while, in the basement and up on the first floor. And it was challenging. I mean, it was hot, it was smoky.
Some of the guys was upstairs going along and it was hot enough that it was burning their hands. And they were down on their hands and knees.
We went through several air packs, a lot of help, a lot of people.
I was really new to the department when that happened. I went into the building, but it was after everything was kind of under control.
I want to say maybe it was pretty much under control in 4 hours.
I just was on ventilation. I'd hold a fan into the door and try to get the smoke up and out, but
Bill Krause was the mayor, and he, of course, got downtown. And I just remember him telling people, don't get anybody hurt. You know, the building's not worth anybody getting hurt. We got through that with just a few minor injuries, nothing serious, but
well, the City Hall fire was an arson.
if there was a suspicious fire, they always brought in the fire marshal. It was up to us as a fire department to not try to destroy everything and have water running out the door so the fire marshal could come in and investigate it.
Investigators and stuff started coming in and talking to us. Their statement was, you guys put a hell of a stop on this building. That fire had a potential of being disastrous because there was fake ceilings in the building.
Those are a different animal because they're older buildings.
You could have burned up a big,
Yeah.
3 or 4 more buildings.
but Burlingame lost their library and their city hall that night too, so that was pretty
Yeah.
big deal for the city.
Well, and what was funny was that City Hall moved into the fire station to do their City Hall business for quite a while.
Yeah, that's right. I do remember the city being at the fire station for quite
yeah.
a while.
Yeah.
A couple of years would have been quite a little while.
It was,
Yeah.
it was.
When we first started, all we did was fires, and maybe 12, 15 fires a year, and half of them were grass fires. And then we started running medicals. So then our 20 calls a year went up to, I think when I got off, we were running 140 a year or so.
I actually think Burlingame was about the first fire,
In the county.
like medical
Probably.
emergency unit in the county.
Well, it started before I was on there, and there was just a bunch of people that had gotten together and decided they needed Well, kind of a first responder unit.
I was on when the first responders started. I'm not sure what year it started. It had been somewhere in the mid 80s because I got on in 80 and it was 4 or 5 years into it, I would guess. It's helped the community a lot.
And they bought an old station wagon, and some of them took first aid. First aid is what they took. Maybe some CPR thrown in, I don't know. And that was where it started. The fire department really wasn't involved at that time.
It was separate from the fire department for a long time. I want to say it was late 80s maybe that they integrated with the fire department.
Medical units and stuff like that at that time was starting to become really incorporated with fire departments. And then they decided, well, if that first aid group is going to have their car parked at the station, the fire department needs to be involved. And that way, the funding for the first responder unit was there.
People started becoming EMTs and even ENTIs and stuff on the department. But to start with, it basically just a first responder, so you would know CPR and some basic first aid.
We was lucky at that time. We had a guy named Dave Couch on our department that helped us start the medical, and he was a RNPA or whatever that.
ARNP.
Yeah,
He's very
he was
good.
very good. So everybody did what they could, and if he showed up, he just took over, and we all just followed instructions at that point. He really got us started and over the hump with the medical stuff. We were trained as first responders or EMTs. We were comfortable helping out, but when he showed up, it's like, oh, good, Dave's here.
And then they got a truck and really started stocking it, and then the training really started to begin.
Well, I mean, I always watched Emergency 51, so I pretty much knew what
You
I
knew
was.
what you were getting into.
I knew I was going to be able to do it.
I know the chief was kind of wanting us all to be cross-trained. You weren't just a first responder, but you get some training on firefighting and kind of vice versa. I think they've been running about 25 to 27 personnel, and probably, I doubt if half of them, maybe a quarter of them are actually medical, because a lot of them don't want to deal with that.
And the medical calls, you just don't really know. It could be anything, anytime.
Majority of our medical calls nowadays are normal. I don't feel good, or I've fallen. Lift assist. That's your typical medical call, which is why you have a lot of people that get burnt out easily.
Well, a lot of the times the calls that you go to are nothing. It's because the person more or less is bored or lonely and wants somebody to talk to, and that's more or less what you're doing, is doing to keep them company.
It could be a 10-minute help me, I've fallen, or it could be unfortunately, a nice 3 to 5 hour, just before you're going on vacation, fatality.
And you find out whether you can or you can't. And we were always told in training that, okay, you're doing okay now and you're doing on the next, there may be that one call you may have to walk away from, and that's okay.
At some point in your career, you will run the worst call of your career. Problem is, you don't know what that is going to be until you're done. We're still working, so we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. House explosion, bad medical, car wreck, you just don't know.
The main thing about being, and I would always say this, being on a small town fire department, when you run the call, you know almost everybody.
If you don't, you know someone who does.
Right.
Right, yeah. You might not know them, but you know their brother
They're
or
connected
whatever. So,
somehow.
that does change it a little.
Seen some first responder calls and still in my mind, if I could paint a picture, just something you seen, you just never forget.
I remember one car wreck over on a highway on 75 that there was just 3 of us that responded to this incident, and the ambulance was already there when we got there, and they had to extricate a person out of a vehicle, and it's just a lot of pressure.
There's one crash north of town, and a guy drove he had a white stub-nosed van. He was driving, and somehow or another, a young gentleman from Burlingame went across the intersection and with a grain truck, and he hit the rear wheels of that grain truck and hit a bridge. Parked like this, down in the ditch, and hit a cement deal, and I thought, oh gosh, this guy's DOA. I reached out to Phil if I could feel a pulse, and he opened his eyes. about scared me to death.
It is very interesting, just like he was saying, the calls, you never know which ones are going to be bad and
That's
which ones
right.
are going to be okay. And the accidents that you think are going to take every life in the car, everybody walks away from it, or vice versa. And I had a friend of mine, we were actually driving behind him downtown, and we were in our truck right behind him. A teenage girl, he was on a motorcycle, and a teenage girl, instead of turning, went to loop and just do a lap downtown. And she hit him, and he spent about 10 days in the hospital, but eventually it did kill him. But he couldn't have been going over 20 miles an hour at the very most downtown.
Yeah, and the car wouldn't have been going all that
No,
fast either.
no,
It's
but-
just, yeah.
I mean, there wasn't a spot of blood anywhere. He just,
Yeah.
If
he
he'd
looked
have been-
fine. He just looked like he was laying there, but he did not make it.
I just happened to think of one call we had out at Fostoria at the train track. It was a granddaughter and her grandmother. The train hit him, and it cut the car in half right behind the front seats. If I remember, it
Split it.
skinned the back seats, so the back of the front seats a little bit.
That'd make you poop your pants.
That's probably the most unique call.
Unique call, yeah.
Because it didn't hurt him.
No, and why didn't it?
It
Right.
completely
I mean,
destroyed the
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
of that car.
Yeah.
Didn't hurt him a bit.
And that's what I was saying. It's just so weird. David never should have died on
But
that
it-
motorcycle, and these people probably by all rights
Well, I
should
mean,
have,
if
and they
it
didn't.
would have been
They were
a-
fine. So
I know, it's kind of scary. You get into situations like car wrecks, and it's overwhelming sometimes. And if you do something wrong, something's going to happen bad.
It's kind of a struggle between like, A, like these people need help, but also B, like, do I want to see this?
When we were in training and talking about this stuff, I could almost get physically like, you're working but when I got on a call, I just took care of it. Just never bothered me. When you were there, you just did what you were trained to do and went forward.
And of course, this job isn't for everybody either. Whether it's medicals or running into burning buildings or whatever.
It's not for everybody, honestly. I mean, I've seen the biggest, burliest guys that can handle the fire, and the minute they see the blood, they're gone. And they will never show back up for another medical call or something like that again. They can't handle it.
You've got to be the right person.
A little crazy or fearless.
It's somebody who's dedicated.
You have to have a level of empathy for the people out there, right? Because if you don't, this just isn't a job for you.
I
Just
don't
being there for people when they need you kind of follows along with the nursing thing, and just being there to help them out when they need it.
Somebody who enjoys doing what is possibly could be expected of them. Nobody really enjoys saying, I'm sorry,
Right.
your grandma's gone now, that type of thing. But you know that you're going to be there to comfort the family if you need to. We don't leave immediately. Sometimes it's an hour later
Yeah.
because we're a close-knit community.
And that's something I've heard a lot is, it's different when you're in a smaller community like this because you know everyone.
Yeah.
So when you get called out, this is someone that you know, not just some stranger.
For most of the time, yes.
It's kind of hard to explain if you walk into a house and people are in trouble and they see you and the expression in their face changes, and it's like, okay, everything's gonna be okay now because those guys are here. So you don't get thanked, but you see that expression change, and that's you're making a difference.
How do you sort of compartmentalize that kind of stuff? Because, I know that stuff sticks with you.
Some do.
I mean, after a while, you kind of get numb.
We get back to the station, and when you're new, you've really taken everything very seriously, and the older guys are walking around making these remarks about, gee, it's a hamburger, wasn't it? Stuff like that, and you're going, how crass can you be? Didn't take long to figure out that's your way of dealing with it.
yeah.
Well, and everybody deals with it different too. I mean, some guys have to internalize it before they talk about it, whatever.
We're watching each other. I mean, I can tell when he's having a bad day just
Yeah.
by, your expressions, and I'll say, hey, how you doing? If he wants to talk, he'll talk. If not,
That's usually the best therapy that you can get. It's the guy that says, I don't need that. I don't want to come in and sit down and talk. That's the one you have to look out for. Because that's going to eat him.
There's always been that stigma of like, well, I'm tough, whatever. Because usually you just never talked about it. Just suck it up and go. And here in the last probably, I don't know, 10 years maybe, they've really started to focus on, it's like, we can't do that.
And I think it's important for all of us to be able to trust each other, like to trust the people on the department, so that you can sit down and have a talk and say, hey, I can't take that. That was rough on me. I think it's important to know that you can reach out to them and talk to them about those things. It is hard.
You can't do this type of work without it changing you.
Yeah, but that's where the family as a department comes in.
We take care of each other.
You kind of go home and you kind of compress and, you deal with that. But a lot of it is, if you have something you got to say, talk to the guy next to you,
And, we have debriefings too. If it's a really bad call, we'll bring in outside help.
That is one thing that I had experienced and I think we all have, in our department, that they've learned that on these bad calls, that a debriefing to where, the people who are involved sit down, and usually if a minister is available, they'll bring in a minister, and we talk. We talk about it.
They have peer counseling, other firefighters, other first responders, people that train in that trauma response.
So that is something that is very important. Again, it's a matter of training.
A lot of professionalism on the department, a lot of training. The department does a lot of training. We had meetings once a week on Thursday night, I believe.
If I remember right, yeah.
Well, this was training. we were in a training fire, and that was up on I actually rented that house. It was up on the hill next to Kenny Hanks. Some years later, they decided to tear it down, and so back then, you could always do training, and basically we'd burn the house down for training. And I was sitting there, and I had my air pack and everything on, so I had my face shield up. The air pack, of course, has kind of one too. You were sitting in there, and it got kind of hot. I mean, I'm sitting there kind of feeling it a little bit. You kind of smell the rubber on the air pack a little bit. And I walk out, and I just remember everybody flips out because they're like, your face shield melted. And I ended up taking my helmet off, and I'm like, wow, that's cool, And so I've kept it on the shelf in our office all these years.
I was one of the people flipping out because we hadn't been together a whole long time. I mean, it was probably early in our marriage, and I was standing outside the front door taking pictures because it was just a really good picture of people coming out of the house. And he comes out, and you can just see it dripping. And I was I panicked a little bit.
I just fascinated by fire, and I worked on the fire trucks and everything I could think of to do, they'd let me do. And so they made me training captain. I took a bunch of the young wannabe firemen into a burning house. We used to burn houses when it was legal. We'd burn the house down for people. We'd light it up, and I'd take them in there and show them. And said, hey, look at the fire, and it's alive. It looked like a living being rolling across the roof, and it made firemen or non-firemen out of them. It was kind of a scary deal to be inside of the house that was on fire. So I don't know if you've ever been around the fire to just watch how it rolls, but inside the house it's coming up the walls and down through the roof, and it's alive, and it will take you. They kept pushing me in whether I wanted to go or not.
Well, you learned how to fight a fire then.
Yeah, you put it out.
I remember when I first started, we didn't have gear. I told Tom, I said, we need to get some gear and training. And he was worried about getting the money to be able to do that. I said, well, they offer free classes, around. And finally convinced him. I said, well, you need the training, and you got to have the gear. And we finally got started on training.
When I first got on, we trained, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it was BS sections and talking about fires and what to do.
And then they finally started going to the fire school in Topeka, fire station they had a whole bunch of different classes to take and everything. And the fire school in Topeka was great on learning equipment and technique and stuff like that.
We took Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2 through KU, correspondence courses. And then we took first responders, and some of the people went ahead and took EMT classes. And then once we got into the medical and further down, there was state stuff to stay certified and stuff. You had to go to, like for EMT class, We had to go to CPR class on certain dates, and we took our volunteer department from here to here, you know.
Because they had professionals teaching you. It wasn't just the people like me that was a volunteer that had learned through the hard way the stuff.
which is great. That's the more training, the better off you are. I can tell you that.
More equipment, better equipment.
Equipment.
Yeah, the equipment's changed a lot in the fire department.
It is. The equipment is great.
It seems more sophisticated.
When I joined, we had rubber coats. They melted in a hot fire. All it would mainly do is keep you from getting wet. It didn't help you from the fire, hardly at all. We had gloves, orange gloves, which were keep your hands safe, but they had rubberized deal on there, and it would melt if you touch anything hot. And nobody ever wear an air pack, didn't have no helmets or anything else. You just went, just clothes you wore. So we went up to the government surplus, and they had a proximity suit, the full fire gear that I got. I was the first one in the Burlingame Fire Department to have one. It was aluminum, so I looked like a tin man walking down the street in it. And they started getting helmets in and a few coats and stuff. 15-minute air pack, you had maybe 10 minutes inside the building. If you're breathing real hard, you probably had 5-6 minutes. Now they got 30 minutes and on up with alarms, because the other one, it had a bell that would go off, but you never heard it.
The air packs have changed a lot since.
Gotten a lot lighter. Now they're going to fiberglass instead of metal.
Makes them kind of easier to change bottles now because they're just a quick connect.
Yeah. Yeah, you just pull them now instead of having to screw them in. And
His air would last twice as long as anybody else's. I guarantee it.
Well, you guys were all screaming and yelling, "I don't want to go, I don't want to go."
the Lucas,
The Lucas device.
yeah, love the Lucas device. Does the compressions for you.
So you don't have to do CPR anymore.
You don't have to do the. You initially start out doing it, but then you can hook the Lucas on, put the Lucas on them, and it'll do the compressions for you, and it saves a lot for the first responders.
The rescue squad they got here in town, see, I helped start that up. The first rescue truck we had was a 55 Ford that nobody could start except me, so that's how I got tied up with that. They got a lot of the fire equipment through the forestry department at K-State. And they donate us Jeeps, and the tanker was donated, and had another truck, and then that old Ford pickup we had, I think we had a Dodge panel truck that used it for the city and fire department.
The pumpers, I don't know if I could run a pumper today. Back then, I was on the brush truck mostly when I was on the department. They're fairly simple to operate. You had to pull a rope to start a gas engine for one. There's a hose reel on the side, if I remember. I don't know about the newer trucks, and then there was a nozzle on the front that you could, I don't know if they have was there a reel on that you could steer it?
Back when we was on, we put somebody physically on the front of the truck with a hose.
And you'd have to strap on with a harness.
It depends on who's driving. But now I think their trucks, I don't even know if they put people on the front. They got mechanical spray nozzles that's underneath the truck and stuff.
I don't know how they do that today. I haven't seen any of the new equipment.
Yeah, the biggest difference between being a paid firefighter and a volunteer firefighter is basically the pay. The job is the same. As a career firefighter, you live with those guys. You're together for 24 hours at a time. As a volunteer, you're sleeping in your own bed every night. The job isn't different. You're running the same calls. It's just one you get paid for and one you don't. When I first started volunteering, there was no pay. It was 100% volunteer. It was your time, your gas, everything.
It's like we got $1 for a meeting, $1.50 for a fire, and $2 if you drove a truck to the fire. But we usually run out of money by July, so nobody ever got the money. If we had money left over, just turn it back into the fire department to buy more equipment.
There was a part that they did put money in insurance for you there at one time.
Yes.
And then when you quit, you could cash that insurance out, whatever it was. But
We have really good benefits. With the FRA, we have $75,000 life insurance policy.
Yep.
We have cancer insurance.
Cancer insurance, you get workman's comp.
And if you stick around for 20 years and retire, we've got an annuity set up to where you draw a little bit from that.
But now I believe they are paid per call or something, so, which is great. You put a lot of time in it. I mean, you go out on a grass fire or a house fire and you're out all day and you get home and the last thing you really want to do is wash the trucks and wash the hoses and put everything up. But you got to, because 2 hours later you may be going again.
We started doing pay-per call.
That's right before I joined.
Of course, we've raised the pay-per call from 10 to 15, but still, it's for a little bit, people showing up to the calls increased, but the money really isn't enough of an incentive to get people to show up. If it was more, maybe.
You know, it's kind of like driving to work on the ice, but what I compare it to, when you're driving to work and it's real slick and you're thinking, God, is it worth going to work today? I'm going to wreck my car or something. You know, I don't care what they're getting paid. When you put a backpack on and you're going in a house flamed in fire, you're not getting paid enough that day.
No.
So my oldest boy at the time said, yeah, I kind of, thinking about, might be interested in learning about this stuff. And it's like, well, we can start this program. I'm like, all right. So him and 5 of his buddies wanted to start doing it. So I started an Explorer program, started that in 03. Basically, it's just student firefighters. They have to be in high school, they'd be 14 years old to start. Come in and basically we train them like firefighters. Of course, they can't fight fire, they can't go in and burning buildings or anything like that. You got to do the safe stuff, but it's still hands-on training. You're still doing
Hands-on
rope
training is
stuff.
good for the ground,
Yeah.
getting stuff off the truck for you and extra manpower.
Yeah, it is. So I started out basically with 5 kids, and I think at the peak I had 17. We had a lot of them that went on to be firefighters, police, that kind of stuff. And we've got a few that still volunteer, several that became career firefighters too. So, and that was kind of the whole point of it. It's like, small town, if you don't get people interested early, you just run out of people. We don't have people knocking on the door to volunteer, which is really sad. The number of kids that want to do it just aren't there, which is scary on our side because we rely on that to maintain a fire department.
I think a lot of people just never really, and I've always thought about that, I think a lot of people just never think about when you have an emergency and you call 911 or whatever, and a lot of your rural areas, it's volunteers. So somebody's going to have to volunteer if somebody's going to show up. So, hopefully someday if I need somebody, that there'll be a volunteer that'll show up and help me. So,
what I've seen over the years, they're looking more for adventure as far as, they come in and do something for 4 or 5 years and then they're like, yeah, I tried it, I'm good, go do something else. There's definitely a society value issue that's way deeper than just fire departments. The whole idea of doing something for somebody else for nothing, it's like, well, why would I want to do that? It's like, probably the big thing is people value their time of doing what they want to do or doing nothing.
Yeah, because where I work, our turnover where I work is so bad because they don't want to do the labor.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a labor-intense job.
Well, I've said it once, I'll say it a million times, that it's not the years, it's the miles.
For me, what makes me enjoy volunteering and things is just, there's the old saying that goes, leave the world a better place than you found it. And I'm super strong in my faith, and I think that's where that comes in for me. I know that if it was my family, I would want somebody there. I would want somebody to do that for me, so I need to be out there doing that for them as well.
Community service, I believe. Helping with the community and trying to better your area for being a provider, I guess, for somebody in need.
I'd say community service and family and friendship.
Knowing that I'm helping others in their time of need.
Just kind of give back to the community a little bit.
I think it's working together with all the other firemen for the community. That was my favorite thing.
I don't know. I guess I'm the type of person, dummy, that somebody asks me to do something for them or something, I'm going to do it without even thinking, and sometimes I've got myself in trouble. I'm involved in other things. This complex here, I fell into that. It's kind of a labor of love, and it's a lot of other things. I was on the city council. I'm now on the planning commission. Don't ask me why. I just get involved, and it kind of sometimes consumes me.
I've always been involved in the community affairs. Fire just fascinates me. And you get to go play in it and put it out and then help people. It always made me feel good to give you a little pat on the back. They appreciate you. They didn't have to do it, but they appreciate you. Like I say, it's a community. I lived here, born and raised here, and get a chance to help them out for all the evil things I've done in my life. Then you get guys like this that I've known forever, and several people I helped or talked into joining or helped join in that, and they excel at it. It makes me feel good that I've done something to help my community, even though I'm not the one doing it, they are. They don't give me a commission or anything, but I'll still take part of the praise, and you still owe me some praise.
You'll never hear enough of that, so.
I know. I never hear enough of it because I never get any.
It's nice to serve the community, but it's also nice to be part of, like Janine said earlier, kind of a family.
It's your second family.
Yeah, it is, and it becomes family.
I've got to be so good friends with people because they were on the fire department and we just meshed to have the same hobbies and it was just a small family.
You run a call at 1 o'clock in the morning and you guys hang around for 3 hours afterward. You don't do that with just anybody.
With us joining the fire department and stuff, I would say definitely the Stroms were neighbors and fire chief that turned to friends, that turned to family. And
It does pay to be on the fire department, because when you need them at your house, you get the whole department.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night when I had to call him for my husband when he's having his heart attack, I think we had the greatest turnout ever that night.
yeah. And
That's
we
good.
are. We are just a big family.
Totally thankful. I mean, I really am.
Good.
And I know they would do anything for me, for about anybody really, if you treat them right.
You're going through difficult times together. You train together. You know each other's weaknesses, each other's strengths. We know each other's problems. I mean, it's, it goes beyond just physical help. It's like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Any of these guys would be like, yeah, what do you need? You can call them at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're like, hey, I need some help, and they'll be there. That's probably the biggest thing with being a volunteer is having that family. Like I was talking about before, you walk in and see the expression on the people you're helping change as far as, hey, I'm here to help, and they're like, oh, thank God. So that's part of it too. I mean, probably those two things is kind of what keeps you coming back.
It was a great experience. I wouldn't turn it down or a lot of great memories on the fire department.
When they said, well, you've put in 33 years, and I'm like, no, can't be. It's addictive. It was enjoyable. It was fun. And I'm a person that when it's not fun or it's work, I'm wanting to get out of it, and that's kind of the way it was. My husband was ill, and I was having to, kind of take care of him, and it was a chore. Just keeping the recertifications was a chore.
Fire department's still important to me. They just won't let me have a hose no more.
Like I said, I'm proud of Burlingame Fire Department. I'm proud to have been a part of it, and I'll challenge you to go out and find a better small town fire department in the state, maybe in the country. I mean, they're great people. The Stroms have really took over. I only had the Stroms as a chief and Tommy Oliver, and I thought when Tommy left, things were going to be tough, but the Stroms picked it up and took over and have just kept improving.
Just kept getting better and better.
Kept getting better and better.
Burlingame's fire department has helped other departments with the stuff that we've done here, because we have a bunch of guys like him and a couple others that were on there.
It's a good thing we got people that care and like this group does, and I think 99% of the people in our community realize what we have here. One of the best around. Am I wrong?
Absolutely.
No, I'm
No,
not.
absolutely.
Of course, I'm prejudiced.
Yeah.
Well,
You're not
probably a
wrong.
little bit prejudiced, but yeah, it's,
No, but you know, it is. The equipment is great, and you look at some of the other towns around, they don't have the equipment that we
Nope.
have. And it's kept in good shape.
Yep.
I'm prejudiced.